appears to defy gravity in her gymnastics routines. Michael Phelps has 23 gold medals, and Serena Williams won her first Grand Slam at 17. In everyday conversation, we say that elite performers must be naturals who possess a gift that can't be taught. But what does the science say? Could innate talent just be a myth? Some researchers now argue that nobody's born a natural brain surgeon or cellist or sports champion. Research across a wide range of fields shows that many people do not only fail to become outstandingly good at something, they frequently don't even get any better than they were when they first started.
So if you're wanting to start playing tennis, for example, you get some instruction and you eventually get to a point where people are willing to play games with you. And at that point, it seems that they become less aware of what they're doing, and it's almost like they're kind of finding now a level of performance that they're just sustaining. So the activity of actually practicing with friends doesn't seem to kind of keep improving the performance.
In the book Peak, Anders Ericsson and Robert Pauls argue, with the exception of height and body size, the idea that we are limited by genetic factors is nothing more than a pernicious myth. That in fact, it's down to something else. A new finding from their research that explains elite performance, something called deliberate practice. Deliberate practice refers to a special type of practice that is systematic and purposeful. It requires focused attention and conducted with the specific goal of improving performance. Several things make deliberate practice different to regular practice. Number one, it's restricted to fields where there is already an accumulated knowledge of effective training activities. Number two, it involves a teacher or a coach. And number three, it requires immediate and actionable feedback.
So you're actually going to try to achieve a state where you can do something that you currently can't do. And that really is sort of stretching yourself, and very different from this idea of naive practice where you just try to do the best you can with the skills that you have. You really identify now something that is well outside of what you can currently do. And in order to do that, you really have to push yourself maximally so you can gradually stretch to this new goal of mastery.
So it's not so much about the amount of practice you do, but the way that you do it. Which means, by that logic, anyone who trains in the right way could achieve high-level results. So why don't they? Well, the answer's pretty simple. Deliberate practice is hard, it's repetitive, and it's pretty boring. And there's not that many people who are willing to put themselves through it. So most of us end up taking the easy route. But even if we think it's unlikely we're born with talent, we might still think that great achievement requires natural abilities or aptitudes, like a high IQ or superhuman memory. For most of the 20th century, it was believed that memory capacity for rapidly presented information was limited to around 7 pieces or chunks and couldn't be improved by training. In 1975, Professor Anders Ericsson undertook a study which disproved that claim by having a normal college student improve his ability to reproduce random sequences of digits from around 7 digits to over 80 digits after several hundred hours of training spread over a couple of years. The student's achievement was significant because when he reached 82 digits and stopped, there was nothing to indicate that he had reached his limit of improving memory skill with practice.
And maybe most interestingly, we found that the way he was encoding and recalling the digits fundamentally changed with practice. He's now able to actually, instead of just rehearsing them, saying them again and again until you recall them, he was able to meaningfully encode them and relate them to knowledge. In his case, he was a runner, so he actually thought of the kind of digit groups of 3 as running times for various kinds of races. So that really showed that this limiting factor of having a memory, really can be improved.
So is there anything that can hinder extraordinary performance? Congenital physical, mental, and health conditions, along with diseases or disorders, are some obvious constraints. And even if you're in peak physical health, Other physical aspects like height or body size are also contributing factors. If you're born with a soprano voice, for example, it's going to be a challenge singing bass. And then there's the issue of luck. For example, a chance accident and the detrimental effect that can have on reaching elite levels of performance. In his book Blueprint, Robert Plomin makes the case for talent as a result of our DNA. Plomin argues that genetic factors can affect outcomes, which raises the question, what role do genes play?
People wonder how Mozart and Tiger Woods would be able to perform at such a high level at young ages. It seems almost impossible that training could explain that. If we look more carefully, we'll find that in all of these prodigious cases, a parent was helping the child, often starting around 2 or 3 years of age, to actually be able now to systematically, acquire the skill. They were sufficiently skilled here to kind of help the child. So these prodigies, it was clearly the result here of a very kind of supervised training, helping them achieve the kind of skills that were then later on displayed at a very young age. So if we actually look at what Mozart as a child was able to play, we can now find that with kind of training, average children can actually acquire the ability of playing not just those kinds of pieces that Mozart played, but even more complex pieces, which again suggests that over time, the performance has changed.
Whatever you believe, it's clear that the price of elite performance is extremely high, and those who reach superhuman levels of performance are often the ones who are willing to sacrifice everything to pay for it.